WWE may be the place that every young wrestler in the world will be looking to work for eventually. It's the biggest company in the world and is truly the pinnacle of wrestling. While other promotions like WCW, AEW, and TNA have tried their best to try and disrupt WWE's hegemony, and AEW stands a good chance to topple it. However, until they actually do, WWE is still the place to be. Sadly, it does have its fair share of problems, which make places like AEW, New Japan, or Ring of Honor more appealing. Be it the booking or the fact that the company makes talent reevaluate their morals, the company isn't perfect. At the head of the operation, we see Vince make arbitrary decisions on how to deal with his talent. Out of his many idiosyncrasies, McMahon has a penchant for being wholly unfair while treating his talent, with killing someone's push being his favorite way of retaliating. This is Wrestling Hub, and today we are looking at 10 wrestlers WWE held back for strange reasons. EC3 is in his second stint with the WWE, with his first time in the company being when he was Daniel Bryan's rookie on NXT. While EC3 going as Derek Bateman at the time was an entertaining figure, WWE decided to let the rookie go. He went to TNA and made a big name for himself as Ethan Carter III, one of the biggest heels the company had ever seen. He completed his journey back to the WWE eventually, and he got signed up by Triple H for his NXT brand, where he barely performed before catching Vince's eye and getting called up sooner than expected. EC3's plans seem undetermined, but if we are to believe speculation, we can agree that there was a push for the man. Sometimes being compared to John Cena, EC3 couldn't succeed for an odd reason. While he was feuding against the outgoing Dean Ambrose in early 2019, EC3 saw himself getting booed while he was the face to Ambrose's heel. This meant that Vince soured on the youngster, and he hasn't gotten a push ever since. This is still one of the most bizarre instances in the WWE. Paul London was an up-and-coming talent that many believed would do very well in the company. His tag team with Brian Kendrick was wholly successful, and there were singles pushes on the cards for both men. However, London didn't just see his push be nixed from the plan, he saw himself getting released for making an unforgivable mistake. Smiling at Vince? On a fateful episode of Raw in 2007, Vince was going to kill off his character from TV via a limousine explosion. Preceding this, McMahon had to walk through the backstage area where all these superstars are looking at him in a somber way. All superstars except one. London smiled at McMahon as he headed to his doom. Even though the angle would be abandoned, London saw his push and WWE career end. Titus ONeil is an all-around great guy. He's one of the few wrestlers that loves doing charity and philanthropic work and is widely beloved backstage. Everything that you hear about Titus reflects absolute gentleman-like behavior, and it is ideally what every male wrestler should be like. However, courtesy and being nice to others may not always be the wisest thing to do, especially if Vince is ever involved. The night of Daniel Bryan's retirement in 2015 was a very emotional day for the entire WWE locker room. While the underground superstar finally reached the pinnacle of sports entertainment, his reign at the top was cut short by career-ending injuries. After Bryan's retirement speech, the talent was heading back to the locker room area. Titus ONeil realized that Vince is trying to cross and go over Stephanie, so he reached out and grabbed Vince, trying to let Stephanie go first. This caused him to be fined heavily, and he hasn't been featured in any major WWE angles ever since. Chivalry is dead, I guess. Zack Ryder is one of those sad tales in wrestling about how a superstar worked to ensure that he can be valuable to the company of his dreams. When he hit a wall in his career in terms of the push he was getting, Ryder used his clever mind to start a video show called Z, The True Long Island Story. It became wildly popular, and it spilled over into weekly episodes of Raw and SmackDown as fans kept chanting for Ryder even in matches he wasn't involved in. Ryder got infectiously over, but WWE were creeping around the corner and smacked Ryder back down to reality. The first 3 months saw Ryder getting buried as systematically as anyone has ever been. He was made to watch his girlfriend cheat on him with John Cena and almost was killed on screen by Kane. His push, which saw him win the US title, ended almost instantly after that, and he hasn't been relevant ever since. While it is reasonable for WWE to hold back stars that they know won't be staying with the company, the manner and circumstances around his exit and burial make it a different case. Dean Ambrose, going as Jon Moxley again, was dissatisfied with the company for not letting him be creative or using his ideas, while lumping him with dead promos and gimmicks. Ambrose told Vince that he wouldn't be re-signing, and thus the burial began. Having just gone over Seth Rollins in a feud which WWE's booking messed up, Ambrose swiftly lost his IC title to Bobby Lashley. He was being fed to Nia Jax for a bit too, which he later claimed was just to get back at him. EC3 already has been mentioned for his failures to succeed against Ambrose. Ambrose saw his career being whittled away before getting pushed again to complement the return of Roman Reigns. WWE holding Ambrose back after the Rollins feud because he decided to leave will always be weird, considering how much money they tried to make off his departure. From one man who eviscerated WWE on a podcast to another, CM Punk has always had a messy relationship with the company. Punk became one of the first indie stars in the world to actually succeed in WWE, but it did take a while for him to find his success. While there was fan support for Punk, top brass in the WWE didn't see anything special in him, apart from one man, Paul Heyman. Heyman's aggressive push backstage for Punk ultimately backfired on the superstar, with people like Vince and Jim Ross getting annoyed and thus looking at Punk even worse than they did before. Just because he was being hyped so much by Heyman, Punk got held back for longer than required. Bruce Pritchard, a creative member in the WWE at the time, discussed this on Something Else to Wrestle With podcast on the WWE Network. Kingston's entry into this list proves that eventually the cream will rise to the top, even if one is being held back. Kingston is the current WWE champion after an explosive road to WrestleMania saw him win his first ever WWE title after 11 years in the company. While it appeared as though he was condemned to be a tag team wrestler for life, Kingston got his due. This crowning moment for Kingston came just about a decade later, however. Kofi was riding an infectious wave of momentum in late 2009 while feuding with WWE champion Randy Orton. In a triple threat match also including John Cena, Kofi refused to stay down and take Orton's punt kick, which was the plan. As Kingston kept standing up, Orton went to Kofi and RKO'd him to defeat him while yelling stupid. Kofi fell down the ranks, but has finally come up again. Lana and Rusev's tale with the WWE seems like it will turn into a modern-day wrestling tragedy. The over duo have reached the heights that everyone thought they would. This wasn't a failure on their part, on the contrary, WWE failed the duo by not pushing them. Even with a popular gimmick like Rusev Day falling into the lap of WWE, they messed it up by breaking up the duo of English and Rusev. However, this burial had started in 2015 when Lana decided to announce to the world that she and Rusev were engaged. The two were involved in a love quadrangle at the time on TV with Summer Rae and Dolph Ziggler. Summer was with Rusev and Lana was with Ziggler. This storyline had to be abandoned, and an irate Vince decided to punish Lana and Rusev. Lana really hasn't recovered from the mountain of heat she received during that time, seeing her wrestling career completely flop. On the other hand, Rusev has tried his best to recover, but WWE's stubbornness to keep him relegated to the mid-card means that Rusev will never be able to reach the heights he was slated for and has once dreamed of. Harper was often regarded as one of the best talents in the WWE who will definitely end up breaking out as a top star. We have seen glimpses of his natural star quality, especially when there was extreme demand for him to be the third man in a WWE title match at WrestleMania. While Harper was the IC champion and looked to be pushed eventually, it never materialized, and Harper is currently not even on TV. Why? Well, Vince wanted Harper to be able to pull off a southern accent for the gimmick that he was going to get, but Harper couldn't do it. This left a bad impression on Vince, who decided that Harper should never be pushed again. Despite people complaining backstage and wishing for Harper to be treated better by the company, Vince didn't relent from his position. After Harper requested his release, Vince went on to add 6 extra months to his contract for time he missed while injured. Talk about petty. The evolution of wrestling means that size isn't as big of a factor as it used to be. However, the fact that a competitor's size was evaluated before his talent set a bad precedent for WWE. This was the case especially in the 80s and 90s, as a young Canadian by the name of Bret Hart was trying to become the next big name in wrestling. While his raw talent meant that he would be featured prominently, his road to the top was far longer than it should have been, all because he was small. Hart isn't the big man that McMahon likes, but he is a more polished and technical star who can sell stories based off storytelling and psychology. It took WWE a long time to realize that Bret had the potential in him, as he spent a large chunk of his early career as a tag team competitor who wasn't even considered to eventually become WWE champ. However, that is exactly what happened. This story doesn't end too well, considering the Montreal Screwjob happened, but Bret being small is an insane reason for WWE to not push him, considering how talented he was. And these were 10 wrestlers WWE held back for strange reasons. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later in the next video.